There comes a moment in every conscious human being's journey when they must pause. Not because the world tells them to stop, but because the inner voice rises louder than the noise around them. People imagine awakening as a gentle light, a calm sunrise, a peaceful yoga mat moment, but awakening rarely feels like that. Awakening is messy, disruptive, uncomfortable. It shakes you from illusions you once worshipped. It is the shattering of narratives, the collapse of borrowed truths, the profound realization that you were living inside a story constructed by culture, society, family, religion, and fear. When awareness begins, a person discovers that many of their choices were never truly theirs. They were inherited, absorbed, and followed out of survival. And survival is not the same as living. To truly live, you must step beyond programming. You must become the sculptor of your own mind. We are conditioned to prioritize fitting in, not expanding. We are rewarded for obedience, not exploration. We are told to walk straight lines, stay predictable, behave politely, avoid questions that shake the ground beneath others' feet. But every breakthrough in human history came from someone who refused to bow to the dull agreement of the masses. The universe did not place you here to be a spectator to your own life. It placed you here to experience the full weight of existence, to explore the interior cosmos just as passionately as society races to explore outer space. But inner exploration is not encouraged because a self-aware human cannot be controlled. A self-aware being does not outsource their truth. They do not kneel to script someone else wrote. They recognize that thought is a tool, not a prison. And once a person sees this, their life begins to mutate in the most extraordinary ways. Yet transformation demands something most people fear: the courage to be alone with your own mind. Look around. Humans drown themselves in distraction, not because they love entertainment, but because silence confronts them with questions they are afraid to answer. Who am I really? What am I doing here? What do I fear? What do I desire? Why am I repeating patterns that hurt me? Why do I call pain familiar and call growth scary? The answers to these questions do not come from outside. No guru, no motivational speaker, no book can implant truth inside you. They can guide, remind, provoke, but the discovery must be your own. The universe hides its treasures inside discomfort, not comfort. Inside uncertainty, not certainty. Inside the wilderness of your own psyche. And only those willing to walk through that wilderness ever taste the nectar of genuine understanding. Kindness, too, must evolve with understanding. Real kindness is not blind sacrifice. It is conscious compassion. There is a tragic myth in this world that a good person must always give, always say yes, always show up for others, even when their own spirit is exhausted. But that is not kindness. It is self-abandonment dressed as virtue. The universe teaches through balance. A tree gives shade, but it also takes in sunlight. A river nourishes life, but it also carves stone. Nature is generous yet fierce. You are nature. You are not a servant to everyone's expectations. Your energy is sacred, and wisdom lies in knowing when to offer it and when to preserve it. Life does not reward those who burn themselves for others. It rewards those who burn with purpose. You are not here to be endlessly available. You are here to awaken, create, become. And sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is step back and let others meet their destiny without cushioning it. Every soul must face its own threshold. There is no shortcut through the fire. And many cling to comforting illusions, relationships that drain them, habits that numb them, routines that kill their spirit slowly. They stay because discomfort is familiar, and familiarity masquerades as safety. But stagnation is simply death occurring in slow. And the universe has infinite patience, but your life does not. Time is the subtle thief nobody sees coming. Days turn to months, months turn to years, and one morning you wake up realizing you spent more energy trying not to fall than trying to fly. Fear creates small lives, not because life is small, but because fear shrinks the space in which consciousness dares to move. If you want to taste the fullness of existence, you must practice bravery not just in dramatic moments, but in the microscopic choices of everyday life, choosing authenticity over approval, truth over comfort, intuition over noise. Awakening also demands boundaries, not walls of bitterness, but gates of awareness. There will be people who misunderstand your growth as arrogance, your silence as retreat, your boundaries as rejection. Let them misunderstand. Their perception is filtered through their level of awareness, not your worth. Do not shrink so they feel comfortable. Do not dim so they feel bright. Instead, honor your evolution. Honor the parts of you that crave expansion. Honor the fact that not everyone is meant to walk beside you. The path narrows not because you are alone, but because this journey requires depth, not crowds. Your tribe will not reject your authenticity. They will rise to meet it. You are not merely surviving this world, are participating in the grandest experiment consciousness has ever attempted: to be human, to forget you are infinite, and then remember, you are a spark of the cosmic mind wrapped in biology. You are a fragment of eternity tasting time. And as you awaken, you begin to see that life is not happening to you. It is happening through you, as you, with you. The universe is not a distant phenomenon. It is pulsing in your veins, vibrating in your thoughts, dreaming through your imagination. When you evolve, reality evolves with you. When your perception shifts, the world rearranges itself. Nothing is fixed. Everything is fluid, waiting for direction. Meaning arises not from existence itself, but from the consciousness that engages with it. And so this phase of your journey is not about mastering the world. It is about mastering yourself. Not domination, but awareness. Not control, but clarity. Not superiority, but depth. You do not need to become someone else. You need to become fully you. Strip away what is borrowed. Release what is expired. Question what you were taught. Remember what you once felt but buried. Let life teach you not through fear, but through curiosity. This is not the path of the many, but you are not here to be many. You are here to be awake. There is a remarkable truth hidden in the fabric of existence that most people never glimpse because they are too busy clinging to what they believe they already know. The universe is not static. Reality is not fixed. Everything you see, think, feel, and assume is part of an ever-expanding field of consciousness learning itself through your eyes. You are not merely a passenger here. You are a participant, a node of awareness through which the cosmos evaluates possibility and potential. Yet human beings, through culture, routine, habit, and fear, reduce themselves to predictable patterns. They exchange cosmic potential for societal comfort. They trade infinite imagination for a few familiar routines. And then they wonder why life feels limited, when in truth, it is not life that is limited, but the frame they insist on looking through. The greatest challenge is not overcoming obstacles outside. It is dismantling the invisible cage inside your own mind. A cage made not of iron, but assumptions, fears, and unquestioned beliefs. Every time you repeat a habit without questioning it, every time you obey a rule without examining who wrote it and why, every time you silence your inner voice because the world might not approve, you participate in your own shrinking. Most people will never realize they lived inside a conceptual cell because the door was never low. The prison exists only as long as you accept it. The universe whispers constantly, there is more to see, more to become, more to awaken within yourself. But you cannot hear subtle cosmic invitations if your attention is chained to the noise of the world. You cannot discover the ocean within if you keep drinking from puddles of approval, validation, and predictability. You must break your allegiance to smallness. The world does not benefit from your self-doubt. Existence does not reward internal silence. The cosmos thrives on expansion, creation, exploration, and consciousness finds its power only when it chooses to evolve. Look at nature. No tree apologizes for reaching upward. No river resists flowing forward. No flame dims itself so darkness can feel comfortable. But humans, with all their intelligence and imagination, hesitate. They restrain their brilliance because someone else might feel insecure. They bury ideas because they fear criticism. They avoid risks because they fear uncertainty more than stagnation. Yet nothing magnificent ever emerged from certainty. The greatest discoveries, the deepest loves, the most transformative realizations all require a leap into the unknown. To grow is to risk. To live is to leap. To evolve is to surrender the illusion of control and trust the unfolding. The universe responds to courage, not caution. Every step into the unknown is answered by invisible forces you cannot predict until you move. Life rewards momentum. Thought is valuable, but action is the catalyst. The path appears when you walk. The clarity comes when you trust. Understand this, awakening does not isolate you. It clarifies you. When you begin to honor your depth, the world around you shifts. Relationships realign not because you withdraw, but because you rise. There are those who will feel threatened by your expansion, not because you harm them, but because your growth illuminates their stagnation. Let them feel what they feel. You are not responsible for the limitations others choose. You cannot freeze your evolution to preserve someone else's comfort. The people who truly belong in your orbit are not those who demand your old identity. They are the ones who celebrate your becoming. The universe does not pair souls based on familiarity. It pairs them based on frequency. As you rise, you resonate differently. And resonance attracts resonance. Whoever is meant to walk with you will rise too, or naturally drift like leaves carried by a gentle stream. That is not tragedy, that is alignment. Transformation demands honesty, not just with others, but with yourself. You must recognize the subtle ways you betray your own potential. Notice when you shrink instead of stretch, when you escape into distraction instead of introspection, when you rationalize fear as practicality. The human ego is skilled at building sophisticated excuses to remain small. But the soul knows the truth. You feel it every time you sense a calling deeper than your routines. You feel it in moments of boredom disguised as contentment. You feel it every time you say, "This is fine," while your spirit whispers, "Not anymore." The threshold between the life you live and the life you crave is crossed the moment you stop negotiating with your own potential. There is power in deciding, "I am done repeating the same day in different clothes." Power in saying, "Comfort has served me enough. Now I seek expansion." The mind is a tool, not a master. It can imprison or liberate, depending on how you use it. Treat thoughts as clouds, not commandments. They pass, they shift, they dissolve. Do not worship the narrative in your head. Observe it, question it, sculpt it. Consciousness is not forced, it is allowed. Growth is not imposed, it is chosen. And each moment offers a choice: numbness or awareness, repetition or creation, survival or evolution. Many choose numbness because awakening requires responsibility for your joy. CS, your energy, your healing, your direction. But there is profound freedom in responsibility. Once you stop blaming circumstances and start shaping them, you reclaim authorship of your life. You stop being a character in someone else's play and become the writer of your own script. The universe responds differently to one who has chosen authorship. Doors open, ideas emerge, people appear, synchronicities unfold. Not because reality changes, but because you do, and as you evolve, you will discover something astonishing. The world was never against you. It simply mirrors your state of consciousness. What you believe, you broadcast. What you expect, you attract. What you embody, you experience. The skeptic calls it coincidence. The awakened see it as the architecture of consciousness. You are not a victim of life. You are a participant shaping reality by the frequency you carry and the intention you choose. When you change your inner world, the outer world rearranges around you like iron filings around a magnet. You begin to see unity where you once saw separation, possibility where you once saw limitation, meaning where you once saw randomness. Life does not suddenly become easy. It becomes aligned. And alignment is worth more than comfort, applause, or certainty. Alignment is the state where you move with the flow of existence instead of against it. You are here to remember that you are not small. You are not accidental. You are not powerless. You are a temporary form inhabited by eternal consciousness, experiencing itself through the miracle of human perception. Every breath is a reminder that existence chose you, not as a spectator, but as an explorer. And explorers do not cling to the shore. They sail into mystery, trusting that every wave carries meaning, every challenge reveals strength, every step forward awakens a deeper dimension of the self. This is your life, your journey, your unfolding. Do not waste it in repetition. Do not trade your potential for predictability. You are capable of becoming something extraordinary, not tomorrow, not someday, but now, the moment you choose expansion over fear, curiosity over comfort, growth over familiarity. The universe is listening to the signal you broadcast through your choices. Send the signal of ascension. Human beings spend most of their lives standing at the doorway of transformation, but rarely step through, not because they lack strength, but because they have been trained to fear their own potential. Society teaches you to doubt the very parts of yourself that are most divine, your intuition, your imagination, your wild curiosity that refuses to bow. And so people walk through life wearing psychological handcuffs, mistaking caution for wisdom and conformity for safety. But the universe has never favored the passive. Existence rewards the courageous, the ones willing to question, to explore, to evolve beyond the boundaries drawn by people who were afraid to live fully themselves. At some point in your journey, you must look at your life and ask, am I living out of memory or possibility? Memory is repetition. Possibility is creation. One keeps you chained to yesterday. The other opens corridors into realities you have not yet touched. Most humans cling to identities that were handed to them before they even understood the concept of choice. You were told what to believe, how to behave, what success means, where happiness should be found. You inherited a map drawn by generations who themselves were wandering in confusion. And then you wonder why the directions do not lead to fulfillment. The great secret is that identity is not discovered. It is sculpted. And the sculpting requires courage, because you will often have to cut away parts of yourself that society praised, but your soul rejects. You will feel the tension between who you were programmed to be and who you are destined to become. That friction is not a problem. It is proof that awakening has begun. Think of consciousness like a flame. It does not grow brighter by hiding under safe covers. It needs air, uncertainty, movement, challenge. Growth does not happen in convenience. It emerges when you meet the edges of your awareness and refuse to retreat. Evolution always begins with discomfort, not because life wishes to punish you, but because the universe expands through friction. Stars are not born in silence, they ignite through pressure and heat. Likewise, human transformation erupts when comfort collapses and you are forced to converse with deeper layers of self you once ignored. The very crises you wish to avoid are often cosmic invitations in disguise, urging you to rise beyond the familiar and discover what waits on the other side of fear. And make no mistake, fear is the true enemy, not failure. Failure is a teacher. Fear is a thief. Fear steals years more efficiently than death. It convinces you to remain in situations your soul has outgrown, relationships that no longer nourish, environments that drain, cycles that suffocate your potential. But what is fear, really? It is a story, a pattern of thought, a hallucination projected into the future. Fear only survives when belief feeds it. The moment you see through it, it dissolves like mist in sunlight. The universe has never punished those who choose growth, but it does challenge those who hesitate. Life does not wait forever at the door. It will knock, and if ignored, it will eventually move on, offering opportunity to someone ready to leap. The paradox is simple. The greatest risk in life is playing it safe. Those who cling too tightly to certainty end up losing what matters most. Vitality, creativity, inner fire. The passion that turns ordinary existence into sacred exploration. The ones who dare to leap might stumble, but stumbling is still movement. Progress does not always look graceful. Sometimes growth appears chaotic before clarity arrives. A seed must break before it sprouts. A caterpillar dissolves before it becomes a butterfly. Destruction of the old self is not failure. It is sacred biology of transformation. One of the most dangerous illusions humans carry is the belief that time will always be available. You say tomorrow, as if tomorrow were guaranteed. You delay dreams, postpone healing, quiet your inner calling, thinking the universe will wait for you forever. But existence whispers a truth many refuse to hear. There will come a day when later is no longer an option. Life does not pause so you can gather courage. You must gather courage while life continues to move. The clock is not your enemy. It is your reminder. Every second is a doorway. Either you step through it with intention, or it closes and becomes memory. Look around at the world. Most people are sleepwalking. They follow routines not because they chose them, but because they never question them. They chase approval as if it were oxygen. They drown in comparison, measuring their worth through distorted mirrors crafted by media, culture, and insecurity. But true strength is not found in comparison. It is found in authenticity. Your path will not look like anyone else's because your consciousness is uniquely shaped by a constellation of experiences only you have lived. You were never meant to be a copy. You are an unrepeatable phenomenon, and the universe intends to witness something through you that it cannot witness through any other being. Yet awakening does not isolate you from humanity. It reconnects you to it more deeply. When you rise into authenticity, you stop competing and start inspiring. You stop seeking validation and start radiating presence. You stop trying to win and start trying to understand. The awakened individual does not walk above others. They walk among them with clarity. They recognize that every person is a fragment of the same cosmic consciousness at different stages of remembering themselves. So instead of judging the sleeping, they embody awareness. Instead of forcing change, they become the example that makes change undeniable. But understand this clearly. Awakening requires shedding. You will lose friendships that were built on your old identity. You will outgrow environments that kept you numb. You will feel misunderstood by people who still live inside the mental framework you escaped. That is not loneliness, it is recalibration. You are creating space for those aligned with your next level of consciousness. As you rise, you will begin to attract individuals whose presence feels like oxygen instead of obligation. Those who see your becoming, not just your past. Evolution rearranges your social universe not out of cruelty, but precision. The universe does not remove people to punish you. It removes them to make room for alignment. There is also a stage in growth where silence becomes sacred. You will crave stillness not because you dislike the world, but because you finally hear the whisper of your own soul. Creativity emerges not in noise, but in depth. Wisdom flowers in quiet soil. You begin to listen not just with your ears, but with your entire being, your intuition, your nervous system, your spirit. And once you touch that internal intelligence, you realize that the greatest guidance never screams. It simply waits for you to slow down enough to receive it. The universe speaks in frequency, not force. And through all this transformation, one truth becomes clear. Life is not happening to you. It is happening through you. You are not a passive observer. You are a channel through which existence expresses itself. Your choices ripple into dimensions you cannot see. Your energy shapes the field around you. When you align with growth, you align with the very architecture of the cosmos. Expansion is not a hobby, it is your fundamental nature. The universe is constantly evolving, and you are a living expression of that momentum. Stop resisting what you were built to become. Step into the current instead of clinging to the shore. At a certain point on this journey, you realize the most profound form of intelligence is not knowing more facts, but recognizing the difference between the voice of fear and the voice of truth within you. Fear speaks loudly, urgently, dramatically. Truth speaks softly, steadily, without force. And at first, the loud voice wins because society has trained you to obey noise, rules, opinions, expectations, judgments. But the whisper inside you is ancient, older than culture, older than your body, older than the thoughts you mistake for identity. It is the pulse of the cosmos, flowing through a temporary human form, reminding you that your life is not random, your potential is not accidental, and your longing for expansion is not a flaw. It is the compass of your soul trying to guide you home to yourself. The world around you will always try to convince you that meaning is external, that purpose lives in achievement, in recognition, in status, in accumulation. Yet every spiritually awake being eventually discovers that the outer world is merely the echo of the inner one. Fulfillment begins not when you obtain something, but when you outgrow the illusion that obtaining anything will complete you. You were never incomplete. You were simply asleep to your own enormity. Transformation, then, becomes a process of remembering your depth, your power, your inherent worth beyond performance. And as you remember, something extraordinary happens. The world that once felt heavy becomes light, not because circumstances suddenly change, but because the person experiencing them has evolved. You discover strength you once begged others for. You find peace in situations that once triggered chaos. You stand rooted where you once trembled, because stability no longer comes from control, but from presence. This is what maturity of consciousness feels like. A quiet, grounded knowing that life is not your enemy. Challenges are not punishments. Any discomfort is not danger, but evolution in motion. The people who fear discomfort never evolve. They orbit the same life endlessly, confusing familiarity with safety. But safety without growth becomes decay. Comfort without expansion becomes stagnation. And stagnation feels like sadness disguised as routine. So you learn to welcome the unknown, because the unknown is where reality breathes. Every new chapter begins with uncertainty. Every quantum leap begins with confusion. Only the ego demands constant clarity. The soul thrives in mystery. And once you trust this, life becomes a dance between surrender and intention. Not passive surrender, but intelligent surrender. Not resignation, but alignment. True alignment is not forcing outcomes. It is preparing yourself so deeply that when the universe opens a door, you are already ready to walk through it. Growth is not about wishing for opportunities. It is about becoming the person who naturally attracts them. Your frequency does the work long before your effort does. Energy precedes outcome. Who you are becoming matters far more than what you are chasing. But becoming requires letting go, and letting go is not an intellectual decision. It is a spiritual discipline. You will have to release identities that once felt essential dreams that belong to an earlier version of yourself, and stories that kept you safe when you were still learning to stand. Letting go hurts, not because you are losing something real, but because the ego cannot imagine who you will be without what it clings to. Yet when the dust settles, you see what remained. The part of you that never needed protection, never needed external validation, never needed guarantees. That part is your essence. That is the self the universe has been shaping through every joy and every scar. And once you touch that place, fear loses its authority. Doubt still whispers, but it no longer commands. And external noise becomes irrelevant because internal clarity is louder. Still, awakening does not make you perfect. It makes you aware. You will still stumble, still question, still experience moments of contraction. But now you understand these moments are not regressions, they are calibrations. Consciousness moves in waves, not straight lines. Expansion and contraction are both sacred, inhale and exhale of the soul. The goal is not constant enlightenment. The goal is to remain aware even when you feel lost, to witness your emotions without drowning in them, to navigate turbulence without abandoning yourself. This is real mastery, not control over life, but intimacy with life. A willingness to feel deeply, to live fully, to embrace the full spectrum of experience rather than numb it because it challenges your comfort. And as you stand in your expanding awareness, something subtle and beautiful shifts in your heart. Compassion rises. Not the pity-based compassion of superiority, but the compassion of understanding. You see that everyone is walking their own path back to themselves. You stop resenting those who hurt you because you recognize they were acting from unconscious pain. You stop needing to be right because inner peace becomes more valuable than ego victories. You stop trying to change others because you finally understand that each soul blooms in its own season. And in that freedom, relationships transform. Some dissolve gently, others deepen profoundly. But your peace no longer depends on either outcome because peace has moved inside you, and eventually you arrive at the realization that everything you were searching for, security, meaning, love, belonging, creativity, purpose, they were never external destinations. They were inner states waiting to be unlocked. The seeker becomes the source. The journey you thought led outward turns inward. And from that inner abundance, you begin to create not out of fear or lack, but out of overflow. You speak truth even if your voice trembles, because authenticity has become more sacred than approval. You pursue visions others may not understand yet, because internal alignment matters more than external praise. You take steps not because they are safe, but because your soul whispers this way. That whisper, once faint and ignored, becomes the North Star of your existence. And in the end, when the noise fades, when the masks fall, when the illusions shatter, you discover that awakening is not about rising above life, but stepping fully into it. It is realizing that you are not here to endure existence, but to participate in its unfolding, to shape reality by the quality of your attention, to sculpt destiny through choice, to turn breath into meaning. You are not here to shrink for comfort, but to expand for truth. The universe did not place you in this human form to survive. It placed you here to become, to remember, to awaken to the miracle of your own consciousness. And once you taste that truth, even for a moment, you cannot return to sleep. Your life becomes a work of art, not defined by perfection, but by presence, courage, and evolution. You begin to walk not as a seeker desperate for answers, but as a creator shaping reality with every thought, every choice, every breath. That is the liberation, that is the revolution, that is the remembering of who you truly are. And now, having seen this, your only task is to live it. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now.